Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video. So this is a Westwood T1100 from 1985 and it does currently have an 11 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine fitted to it. But in this video my goal is to replace this engine with a diesel, this one down here, a Lombardini, which I think is probably like 7 or 8 horsepower, but of course with the torque it's probably more powerful than the 12 horsepower, 11 horsepower engine that we have here. So it will be really quite interesting to do this, and Westwood did actually sell this machine as a diesel. It was the T1200 initially, and then it was called the D1200, the D standing for diesel, and I think it was quite a success because there's many around, or at least there were many around. They are slowly disappearing, but as I have a good diesel engine down here, at least I think it's a good diesel engine. The previous owner told me it was, so I know it's not too much to go on, but it's something. Yeah, if we can stick that into here, then maybe I can make a much more economical machine. It doesn't have a deck, but I might have one somewhere which I can fit to it eventually. And yeah, it would just be a nice thing. And the diesels, the single-cylinder diesels are really fun, so maybe we could put an exhaust stack on it at some point. Now before I get straight in removing this engine and fitting the diesel engine, I want to try and get this one running, because then at least I can test the gearbox on the machine and everything else just to make sure it's all working, and also I can test the engine, because this engine, if it's good, can be used on a different project. So that is going to be the first part. This might actually be a two-part video. So we might just do the petrol engine in the first half and then the diesel in the second half. And for anybody wondering about the quad bike video, which I started and then didn't do any more of, I will be doing more, but the quad bike is currently in an area which is flooded, and I did try and start it. I was going to just drive it through the flood, but it wouldn't start. So yeah, I just thought I'd do this project because this is actually something I've been wanting to do for a while. Well, I thought before I get straight into the petrol engine I will just have a quick look at the diesel engine, because I've just realised there's a load of something running down the starter motor. I think it's oil. It doesn't really smell of diesel. And the top cover has got all of its bolts removed. Yep, so someone's been in here before. Never a good sign. Also, one of the rubber mounts is missing. That's not a big problem though. I think you can still get those. Yes, it's very oily. These engines do tend to be, but it means that the top crank seal is probably leaking. It's not a major issue. It's not gushing out. Well, I guess it is kind of gushing out if it was running down the starter motor. So we'll probably have to get this flywheel off and we'll get the seal changed. I think you can still get them from Italy, but I would love to know if it works first before I put the effort into that. Like I said, the previous owner said it does work, but then I've had it before many times where the previous owner said it works and it's completely seized. So it's amazing, absolutely amazing how dishonest some people will be. Wow, that's heavy. Yeah, I don't know why people can't just be honest. It might be fine. Maybe this person is honest. Luckily it looks like the injector pump and all that fitting down there is all good. So it looks like it might just be oil coming from the top seal. If it is, that's not too bad. I can live with that if we can get the flywheel off. That's the decompressor lever just there. Makes it easier to start. Ah, somebody's welded the nut on for the air filter. Oh, it's all bashed in as well. Why would you do that? Can't remove the air filter cover without cutting it off. Another sign that it's not quite as good as it was initially meant to be. But still, it's a fixable issue. I just hope it's good internally. Maybe they've already had an exhaust stack on here. There's a collar that's been welded on. I actually do have another muffler if I want to fit it, make it look original, but I think an exhaust stack might be fun. And then we have the injector just under that disc, under the holder, and that doesn't look to be leaking. There's no diesel coming out of the fitting, out of the pipe, so that's good. So anyway, we'll get back onto this later and try and spruce it up a bit. And for now, let's move on to the petrol engine. Right, so let's start on this side with the air filter and the carburetor. And yeah, this battery tray which is in here, which is actually being held on with one screw, that's going to have to go because I'm going to have a tray which can accommodate a fuel tank with a return line and a battery. So that's something else, another obstacle I'm going to have to work around. Yeah, we'll have to see, because Westwood did make another tray, but I'm not too sure if I'll be able to fit it to this machine. Maybe I can retrofit it. So I expect the air filter is pretty bad. It's one of those ones with the foam part on the top. Yeah, so it's like a self-adhesive foam filter which sticks up under here. Very rotten and mouldy. So of course, if this engine is ever fixed up or rebuilt, that'll be replaced. And there's the paper element, which actually isn't too bad. It's not too bad at all. And it's good to see the carburetor looks alright too. Of course, when I say the carburetor, I mean the intake for the carburetor. It looks fairly clean in there. And there's no water or petrol. I wouldn't really expect petrol, but yeah, no water at least. Yeah, this engine probably hasn't run for a very, very long time. And don't let the cobwebs fool you, they can spawn overnight. These spiders get everywhere. Right, so yeah, let's just drop the bowl. I don't want to go taking the whole carburetor off if I don't need to, so we'll just take a look under there in the bowl, and if it's all good, then we'll have a look at the fuel tank. Of course, this is a carburetor with the mixture screw underneath. Oh, wow, there is actually petrol in it. Very stale petrol. I guess I should get a rag for that. Okay, that looks quite clean. For the bowl itself. Okay, we've got some... Actually, I think that is... Well, it is rust, but it's also like gumminess, old petrol. But yeah, we've had water in there because it has formed a layer of rust around the inner ring. So that needs to be cleaned out. And yeah, just made nice. But hopefully the rest of the carburetor is fine. I'm tempted just to give it a go once I've cleaned the bowl, because really this video isn't about this engine, and I don't think there'll be a major problem with it. Like the emulsion tube and the jet and stuff might be dirty, but I guess we can come back to them if there is a problem. That's a closer view. So you can tell water has just been sat in there. It's just started to corrode it. But yeah, that's petrol, which I'm surprised about. It means it has had fuel in it more recently than I thought. I thought it hadn't run for about 10 years. Give that a quick wire brush. When it's really bad, I tend to sandblast it. That's good. That's got rid of all the loose corrosion, so that will be fine. However, the bowl gasket is rotten, completely rotten, brittle. So that is going to have to be replaced. Hopefully I've got one. I'll go and try and find one, and then we can refit the bowl. Okay, yeah, I do have one. It's actually a Sten's one, but it's part number 270511 from Briggs & Stratton. So we get that fitted. And I have actually tested this engine by hand. I've turned the engine by hand from underneath to see if it is actually seized. I'm not doing this work to a completely untested engine. The reason why I said underneath is because the top recoil cover is not functioning. The rewind spring isn't working for whatever reason. Or is it the... yeah, the rewind spring doesn't work. So anyway, that's the bowl back on. There we go. So now we will just try and turn it over on the key, see what the tractor's electrics are like. Yeah, you can see. We have a very, very small amount of oil registering, but I'm not going to start it, obviously. Just going to turn it over. Right, so we've got the boost pack connected. Let's turn the key. We've got one light on the dashboard to tell me the deck is disengaged. Should light up and tell me the parking brake is on, but that one's not working. Bit of smoke there. But yeah, that is working. That's good. So let's change the fuel line, check the fuel tank, and put some fuel in and see, and a bit of oil, and see if it runs. This will be interesting. I think it's just a dirty ground. That's what we're smoking down here. The fuel tank is dry and the fuel tap is off, so nothing else will have made it into the carburetor bowl, and there really should be nothing coming out of this pipe. It depends how recently there's been fuel in it. If it's really recent, then there might be a bit of residue. And I say really recent, let's say at least a year, because that fuel smells so bad. Okay, this is stuck on here. There it goes. Yeah, there's nothing in it. So we'll get that changed, and that stays with the engine, so it doesn't matter about fitting a brand new onto it. It's not wasted. Yeah, the fuel line doesn't seem too bad actually, but just don't want to run the risk of putting fuel in and then losing it all. It's a bit perished on the ends. So yeah, we'll put a genuine on from there to there. The cap isn't looking too good. I'll put a genuine Briggs & Stratton cap on there so it doesn't all just evaporate instantly. And yeah, I think then put the oil in. I will fix that recoil eventually. If it runs. If it runs, I'll fix the recoil. If it just billows out with smoke like a train, then yeah, I won't bother. It's pointless. Because it would need a full rebuild, and then I might as well just do it as a whole restoration video. Yeah, so it's just about registering. So we shouldn't need a massive amount. Just need to get it into the safe mark. Right, so that is at the very bottom of the safe mark. So we'll put a bit more in. This is likely going to be drained out again anyway, because it is just test oil. Okay, it's just over halfway, but 2/3 up the safe mark, so that is perfect. Okay. If it fires, I'll take it outside. Obviously, because we are just starting it for the first time, it will take a little while to get the fuel through. So, yeah, don't expect it just to fire up instantly. On my restorations, they tend to fire up instantly because what I've done is I have squirted a bit of fuel into the carburetor just to give it that initial prime. Here goes. I have no idea where choke is. There we go. Yeah, it was better than this first time. Okay, I'll go directly to the engine. Well, I should never have expected this to be that easy. Yeah, we've got a couple of problems. The float is getting stuck, or the needle and seat has got an issue because it's overflowing. And also, as you'll have heard from that quick test there, the engine is running very, very fast. That was on idle, and that was still probably faster than full revs, the high idle. So yeah, we need to do a quick governor adjustment, which is fairly simple. The biggest problem is the fact that the carburetor is overflowing. So I should have just done this from the start. So just got to remove the air filter box first of all, and then I can remove the carburetor itself. We'll put it onto the bench, and I don't think it needs a big clean or anything, because I think it would run fine. But as I'm taking it off, I will clean the jet and the emulsion tube. So yeah, just got to remove these two screws here. There's another one down here, and then it's just the linkages, and that'll pull off. Oh, and the muffler. Yeah, we're going to struggle to access that bolt in there with the muffler attached. Okay, so let's remove this once again. So the reason why it would be overflowing is one of two reasons, as mentioned. It looks to be sitting fairly level, so we'll just make sure it's all clean, make sure the seat is clean. It's quite difficult to see on camera, but it looks a little bit perished, so I'm going to get that out of there and we will put a new one in. I'm going to put this tapered punch into there, very carefully. And there we have it. So, yeah, we'll just put a new one in. I'll just clean out in there first of all. And then very carefully we have the new one to just lower into there. Let's make sure that is level. Okay. And there we have it. That's it installed. And yeah, as I said before, although I don't think it is an issue, we will clean out the main jet and the emulsion tube if it's going to come out of there. Sometimes they are really stuck. Okay, let me just try a fatter screwdriver. There we go. Sometimes those Briggs & Stratton ones just don't give you enough grip, enough leverage. Okay, so there we have it. Now, I actually do have a brand new one with me because I've just got the kit for the seat. So I could just stick a new one in, but it really doesn't look too bad at all. So I'll just give that a really quick spray with some carb cleaner, and then I'll blow some compressed air through it. That's all we need to do. And then before I refit that one, we've just got this nozzle on the top. Wow, that one really doesn't want to work today. Right, this screwdriver should do it. That was pretty stuck. Yes, if you ever do strip them out, that's never good. Makes them very difficult to remove. This looks really clean. Yeah, that looks brilliant. I never really did doubt that there was an issue with the cleanliness of it, but I'll go and spray some carb cleaner through it. It's spotless. Yep, it really didn't need that, but it's had it anyway. Won't do any harm. And now for the other one. Very carefully. Okay, right. And now we can refit the float with the needle valve. Slide the pin through. My new bowl gasket is still good. The bowl itself. And our mixture screw. And washer, there is a washer on there as well. So hopefully this has resolved our fuel leaking problem. As for the governor, we can set that when the carburetor has been refitted. Well, I've just fitted the carburetor to the engine, all looking good. I've attached the fuel line again, and as you can see, no fuel dripping onto the chassis. And when we look into the intake for the carburetor, it's all dry. When the bowl overflows, that tends to get full of petrol as well. And there we have it, that's the air filter refitted. We're ready to go. Let's try it again. If it runs successfully, then I will again try and test to see if the battery is charging. But of course, if we have another issue, we'll bring it back into here and we'll fix it. Well, that actually ran and drove pretty well. Good enough. We at least know that the engine is not an oil burner or it doesn't have any serious knocking or anything like that. So the only thing which we need to address now really is the recoil. I suspect because of what it's doing, we actually do have damage to the plastic recoil assembly under here. So that probably needs to be completely replaced, but we'll have a look. I don't think I have a replacement, but at least we can get to the bottom of what is causing the issue. So we should actually be able to pull the whole thing off with the dipstick attached. Hopefully. There we go. Pop it back in its hole. Yep, as suspected, in here it's totally stripped out. It's perfectly round. Obviously whoever was using this engine was using it with the recoil start an awful lot, much more than the electric start. Maybe they couldn't get the electric start to work. But anyway, what I would do, because I don't have a replacement one of those, is I'll probably put an order in for one, and I will put a note on this engine to remind me what is wrong with it, because really there isn't too much wrong with it. We'll put it to one side, we'll remove it from this machine, we can continue with the video trying to fit the diesel engine, and yeah, maybe at the end we'll revisit this if I've got hold of the replacement part, or just another recoil cover. Okay, engine runs 40 recoil. That will do. Let's get it removed. So we've just got the main pulley in here which needs to be removed. You can see the drive part is not looking great, but it did work, it did drive. There's the gearbox. So we'll just pull the pulley off to begin with. Hopefully it isn't stuck. They usually are. But we'll see if we're in luck. I was just trying to fit the puller and the leg sort of levered it a bit, and there we go. Just needed a bit of persuasion. Whew, that thing is heavy. Right, so we're going to have a look, I think, under the flywheel. It's going to be worth looking at that now. Also, at some stage, this wire here, I think it was, used to resemble the wire that ran to the charging system under the flywheel. But that seems to be all ripped out. Doesn't seem to lead to anywhere. So yeah, it'd be interesting to have a look under this flywheel for a couple of reasons. So first of all, we'll just zap this bolt out. We have to turn it clockwise. Maybe I should have used the 3/4 inch impact wrench for that. It's actually got water in there. Right. Well, it's probably going to take a bit of persuasion to get this off. It's probably never been removed since factory. Back in 1988-ish, might have been 89. The mower which I'm fitting this to is about 85, but I know that came off a slightly newer one. Okay, I'm just using a harmonic puller to try and remove this flywheel. Hopefully it's going to lift it. I was trying to find some high tensile bolts, but unfortunately I don't have any this size to go into these existing holes. So we'll tighten that and we'll see if it will pull it off. Okay, now that just bent the puller. That is one stuck flywheel. Yeah, this is going to be a pain. You can see I've got the bolt in there, but it will still allow it to pull up. The flywheel can still move upwards, and it didn't move it at all. It's a taper fit. It's a tapered crankshaft. It's stuck on the taper. And probably, actually, because there is water in here, it's probably rusted as well. So it's probably like stuck on the taper and stuck on rust. Hooray. Okay, so I've just had a good thing about it. I've also checked the workshop manual, and the workshop manual literally just shows that you can walk up to it and go like that, and the flywheel's off. Crazy. Anyway, yes, what we'll do, because I don't even know if this engine runs, is I'll put that back together again. We'll try and fit it to the machine. I'm going to have to drill some new holes in the chassis, and if it runs, then I can start to focus on, you know, making it better, changing the oil seal, working on the electric system under there. But yeah, for an engine which might not even work, going to this level of effort is actually not worth it. We might as well just put this part on hold and then come back to it. So let's see, first of all, if I can even fit it to this chassis. It should fit with some new holes, but it certainly won't fit into the existing holes. So we've got the existing front hole, but we don't have any for the back. The two rear ones do not exist. They would do actually if I was fitting this to a slightly newer Westwood, like 1987, 88, 89. They would be pre-drilled in the chassis, despite it being a petrol. But yeah, for this one, because this age of diesel had a different plate, slightly different plate, the holes are incorrect. Maybe that is for the diesel on the older plate. So yeah, we're going to have to drill the two new ones. But first, let's give this a serious clean. And the chassis, it's absolutely filthy. I can't really work with all this oil everywhere. So I'm just going to measure from the frame to the chassis on both sides. That needs to be moved further this way. It's looking like it's about 3 centimetres each side, 30 millimetres. So I'll just measure the other side as well. Yeah, 30 millimetres from the edge on both sides. So I'll mark those. Yeah, I'll mark those and we'll get those drilled, and then hopefully that will be fine. Hopefully we can then mount the frame, well, remount the frame to the engine and then mount the engine. Okay, so yeah, centre of the hole to the edge is 50 millimetres. On both sides, so that is central. Just measure those again. You can never measure too many times, but you can certainly drill too many times. Okay, that looks a bit... Yeah, getting a little bit off on the left side. It's not going to be a major problem. My left, that is. Yeah, it wants to be ever so slightly further in. Like a fraction. Like next to nothing. Okay. We'll go for that one. That should be good. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, good. Obviously moving, one side's going to adjust the other one slightly, so we'll move that one across as well. It is literally just a millimetre. Perfect, okay. So, we will drill that. Yep. And I think we'll measure again. No harm in doing that. Yeah, it's perfect. Good. So I think it's actually M10. I think we've got M10 bolts in these rubber mounts. We'll go for an M8 first though. The chassis isn't actually that thick. Okay, and now for the 10. Brilliant. Okay, so let's get that mount put back on again then. Just spin it round. I'll clear all the shavings in a minute. We'll just do a quick test to make sure that it's actually in the right place. Don't know if I'm going to have to remove that bolt from in there. Yeah, perfect. So that's the idea. That is the general idea. And yeah, the only problem is the steering rod. So, but it's going to be fine. We're still going to be able to drive it. You just can't go full lock for the time being. Yeah, it aligns perfectly. Good. So we'll get that plate taken off, we'll get it mounted to the engine, and then I think we'll put the engine in. That's the engine fitted, and I'm not going to be able to fit the throttle or the stop cable just yet. Also, there's no electrics or anything, so I'm just going to try and go straight to the starter motor. Also, we have the return pipe to the fuel tank. That is not connected, but for the quick test that we're going to do, it doesn't need to be. So let's put some oil in and some diesel and just see if it turns over. Of course, I'll check to see if it turns over before I put the diesel in. Right, so just hold these two wires together and hopefully it will turn over. Brilliant. Okay, so let's put some diesel and oil in and move on to the next step. It will also need to be bled. We'll have to bleed the system. So yeah, just basically back off that nut there and let the fuel run clear until there's no more air bubbles. Okay, so that's registering in the right place. So we have the oil. So now let's try and get some diesel through. We'll bleed the system. Just put some rags underneath there, because the diesel should start to come out of there. Right, here we go. So if I can hold the decompressor lever as well, we'll be able to make the engine turn over even faster. Okay, really struggling to get fuel through. We might have a problem with the injector pump, which is a bit of a pain. But this video is getting quite long now, and actually I wasn't even expecting to get onto the diesel engine in this video, so I think we'll leave it here, otherwise I'm not going to get this out before Christmas, and then we'll come back to it, and yeah, hopefully we'll get the engine running. So yeah, sorry to leave you on with such an anticlimactic ending, but sadly, I don't think it's going to go without a little bit more inspection work and well, potentially repair work. But it might just be an airlock still. There's still that chance. But yeah, it's surprising that there's absolutely no fuel at all coming through at this stage. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 2.